I did not want to go see The Housemaid. I wanted to see Marty Supreme, and I was with my friend, and my friend mentioned that we should go see The Housemaid, and I was like, "Well, if she really wants to go see The Housemaid, then I guess I could just go see The Housemaid and go see Marty Supreme separately." I had this idea that Marty Supreme was gonna be this inspirational video. I think everyone saw that viral video about him talking about his dreams in this scene with Gwyneth Paltrow. And when I watched it, I was so disappointed, not because of anything about the film that was the acting or the story. Well, I mean, I was kind of disappointed that Marty Supreme isn't really a good guy. And I knew that going into it, but I didn't know how bad he was. And I went there looking for a kind of like a jolt of like inspiration and motivation, and it was the opposite. Like, this is like really disturbing. But I don't have anything negative to say about the film itself, just that if you're going in looking for inspiration, it actually might not be the one for you. And then, when I saw Housemaid, I was not expecting it at all. I thought it was gonna be kind of like a I don't know why. I thought for some reason it was a period piece, and it wasn't. It was kind of like an everyday work of art, and it was so fascinating. It was interesting. Immediately, the characters were so complex and had backstories that were so beautiful and honestly shocking. I was really shocked with a lot of the bold choices for the characters, and that their stories were so unique to them. And of course, like most films that are wonderful, they're adapted from books, and I was with a friend who saw the movie because they loved the book so much. So, she knew going into it what was gonna happen, and she said that it was just as good as the book, that it lived up to the book, and I love to hear that. I didn't read the book yet, and I think that the movie was just so incredible. I just read something that it made like 135 million and only cost maybe like 35 million to make or something. I don't know if those are the exact numbers, but I'm sure as time goes on, those numbers are going to change. Um, and yeah, it was so good. Some of the things that I liked was that it took some of these stereotypes about women being against women and kind of flipped them on their heads. Also, this idea that, and I don't know if this is spoiler alert, the idea that a lot of people who seem unstable have endured a lot of whether it be abuse or different forms of mental torment, bullying, criticism, constant criticism, which again you can say is abuse. And I thought it was done so well. It was powerful, and the characters were so strong. Um, I probably would watch it again. It was so good. And also, the aesthetics in it are something that I feel like would be worth watching again. It's something that's enjoyable to watch. It's actually a really incredible energy to it. So for anyone who hasn't seen The Housemaid, I would highly recommend it. And yeah, I was kind of like in this dilemma, do I watch The Housemaid or do I watch Marty Supreme? And I ended up watching both, but The Housemaid was actually a better choice to watch. Um, some of the themes in it, the idea of women not supporting women, and I think that the end of it was so powerful in the way that women did show up for each other. I think that it talks about something that a lot of the time women being pitted against each other is because that there are external forces that say there aren't enough resources and that you have to pit yourself against someone else to get enough resources. And as we know, this is usually a mechanism for control or even specifically coercive control, which is a form of abuse. And I think that this movie talks about something in a deeper way that I think is subconsciously in the ecosystem of the collective, and that's this idea that why aren't women supporting women, or why aren't everyone who's suffering coming together? Why is there so much division? And it comes back to this narrative that if things seem unstable and you don't know where your next meal is coming from, or you don't know if you're going to have enough resources, actually it causes division because you think there's not enough, and that you're in opposition with people, which is actually a facade and this kind of like um, false image that you have projected onto the world because you have taken it from the way people treat you. And there's a lot of injustice in the world. And something I loved about this is that injustice can make us choose unjust ways to cope or to get out of situations, which I thought was really important because there's this choice at the end of the film where the main character, Amanda Seyfried's character, actually chooses against that and decides to make a choice that is not only good for her, but for Sydney Sweeney's character. And I think that that is so powerful. Also, it's a perfect setup for a sequel. I know, I think someone said there are 4 books in this series, and the ending was so powerful. I was like, the ending was so satisfying in itself, and then like the little tiny bit at the end that kind of like sets it up for a sequel was perfect. So it was kind of like, it was probably the most satisfying movie that I've seen in a long time, and also one that set up for the next film. Um, I think that it was probably the best movie I've seen in a while, and it was totally worth going to the theaters for. There were so many like twists and just like shocking things that I feel like, the underbelly of our society are all topics that we are, whether or not we're choosing to face them every day, whether that be just things of injustice or specific things that all of us face daily. I think there's this undercurrent of themes that we have no control over, or that we feel like we have no control over, being resolved within the film. And I think it's so rare that a film can do that and do that well. And yeah, I would say it's a very satisfying watch. Also, it kind of like has this sense of justice, and how justice, the bad guy loses, the good people win. That idea, I think, is something that all of us are feeling like we need right now. And yeah, I'm just really grateful. Also, thank you for anyone who's come to the live. Feel free to say something in the chat. Um, I don't know if you've watched The Housemaid. The Housemaid, again, it was the most satisfying watch in a while. So well done. It was not what I expected at all. I really don't think the trailers in any way did it justice. Um, I think a lot of people who read the book and went to the film had the most accurate depiction of what it was going to be like. I think maybe some people would watch it for Sydney Sweeney, and I'm not sure how they would take it, but she did such a great job in it, and her character is just such a powerful person. Um, and I really found I really found the depth of the characters to be something that I haven't seen in a while. Especially, I think there's so many like superhero movies that come out, and so much of them have this kind of like good and evil kind of like dynamic. And I think what we see in the world is that there's so much of the gray, and that Sydney Sweeney's character has like a criminal record. And I think it's really something that is so like of the times right now, that it's important to recognize that you don't have to be this perfect person to do good in the world, and that sometimes doing good in the world makes you a villain in some people's story. And I feel like that was the most powerful part of the movie, especially for women who are constantly villainized whenever they don't self sacrifice for the relationships in their life. Um, and I thought it was so well done. It was the most satisfying movie I've seen in a while, and I highly recommend it to you.